Hey y'all, welcome back to my kitchen and to my channel, The Farmer's Table, where today I'm going to share with you the step-by-step tutorial in making my most favorite turkey recipe for Thanksgiving, because this week is Thanksgiving. So I'll tell you that this recipe has changed just a little bit over the years that I've been doing it. Previously, whenever I made the stuffing, I made it with white bread as well as cornbread, and I no longer use the white bread. I just do cornbread now because we're gluten-free, and the way that I make cornbread is gluten-free. I will put the recipe for my cornbread down below. I've already got it in the oven right now. You can use whatever cornbread you want in this for the stuffing. So if you like to use a box mix, if you like to use a sweet cornbread, I do a traditional southern cornbread that does not have any sugar added to it, because this recipe has like some fruit in it, a balsamic glaze, and I kind of like the contrast. I don't want it to be overwhelmingly sweet. I like it to have some sweet and some savory. But I'll put the PDF link to my cornbread recipe. It's super simple. Now this is a stuffed turkey recipe. I'll tell you that turkey, I feel like, is one of the most misunderstood meats that we eat. Whenever you start talking about turkey, so many people are like, ham is better for Thanksgiving, turkey is gross, turkey is dry. And I would say to that, your turkey is overcooked. If you are eating very dry turkey, it just means it wasn't prepared well. A well-prepared turkey should be a delightful dining experience. A key to that is definitely a meat thermometer. The little pop-out temp things on store-bought turkeys are fairly inaccurate. The thing is that turkey breast meat is done at 165 degrees, whereas typically the thighs can withstand getting up to like 185 before they're done. All right, my cornbread is ready for us to start making this stuffing. And those pop-out temp things, I think that they pop out at 185. So if you're relying on those things to make sure your turkey is done, you're probably overcooking it, because those are usually in the breast. They're usually like this deep, and if it's 185 on the outside of your breast of your turkey, you can guarantee it's gonna dry your mouth out. So meat thermometer, really big deal here, so that we can make sure we're temping the deepest part of the breast at 165, at which point we'll be pulling the turkey out of the oven and not choking while we chew on it. So the first step we are going to do is we are going to assemble our stuffing. So we're gonna need a really large bowl here. I usually cook my cornbread first and pull it out of the oven so it can start cooling as I'm doing these other steps so that I can handle it. Now to begin, I need 1.5 cups of dried figs. I just buy these online. I can put a link to them. You may be able to find them at your local grocery store. I have in the past harvested figs whenever they were in season and then dried them, but I did not get any this year. I'm gonna rough chop these and put them in a large measuring cup, or you could use a bowl. These pieces of these figs are going to end up in our stuffing, so while I don't need them to be super small, I definitely don't want any really huge chunks. Now we're going to cover our dried figs with about 3 cups of warm water. And to this we add about a tablespoon of honey. Okay, give it a little stir, and this I'm gonna just push to the side and let these figs reconstitute for at least 15 minutes. I've got a skillet here over medium heat, and I'm going to put a pound of sausage in it and brown this. So this is just like a really basically seasoned breakfast sausage. It's not real strong. It's not like a super strong sage or a super Italian sausage or spicy sausage. You can use anything. So if you guys like spice in your food, you could use a spicy sausage here. If you wanted to do like a maple sausage that was gonna add some sweet, you could do that. I like to keep it more basic so that I can build my flavors with my seasoning, but whatever you want is fine here. While that browns, I'm going to chop 2 onions and 2 tablespoons of fresh rosemary. My sausage is brown. You want to make sure it's broken up in lots of tiny bits so you don't have any big chunks in your stuffing. Transfer this over into the bowl where I'm going to mix it all together. This sausage didn't have a ton of fat in it. I'm just going to leave it in the pan. If it were extremely fatty, like if you had more than a couple of tablespoons of fat left in your pan, you would want to drain some of that off. Into this pan, I'm now going to put a couple of tablespoons of butter and my chopped onions and rosemary, which I'm just going to sweat these down and let them cook for no more than 10 minutes. I just want my onions to be kind of soft and translucent, not trying to caramelize them. Cooking the rosemary in with this, you don't have to do that. You could just put the rosemary in, but this will just make sure that that's soft too. From here, I've got my cake of cornbread that I cooked earlier. You're looking for about 5 cups of cornbread for this recipe. So if you do make a boxed recipe, you may need to use a couple of them. You basically want like a good skillet full of cornbread, or a full loaf, if you will. I'm going to break this up. While my onions finish up browning, I'm going to add a cup of cream to my bowl of stuffing. Now, we call it stuffing because we're going to use it to stuff the bird. If you are not comfortable with cooking a stuffed bird, or let's say maybe you're just making like a turkey breast or something like that and not even cooking a whole bird, you could make this and just not stuff it. Just put it in a greased casserole and cook it, I'd probably say covered, maybe like 40 minutes, something like that. Keep an eye on it to make sure it's not drying out. Usually with dressings, which are cooked outside the bird, it's very similar to stuffing. I'm whipping 2 eggs, by the way, to put in this. Usually they have a little more moisture content because they're not going to have the fat of the turkey running down into them. So keep an eye on it, make sure it's not drying out. Alright, 2 eggs and the cup of cream. And I'm going to add in the onions. Cast iron's heavy. The onions and rosemary, I should say. Alright, now you need a second pot, like a sauce pot. This is a small cast iron pot, but it doesn't have to be cast iron. And we're going to get our figs, which have now been sitting for over 15 minutes. So the figs themselves are nicely rehydrated, but this lovely water that they've been sitting in is now imbibed with fig goodness. So I'm going to strain it into my saucepan. The figs go into the stuffing, and the juice goes on the stove over low heat. We'll get back to that. It is going to turn into the glaze for our turkey. However, we won't need that until the turkey's halfway done cooking. So for now, I want to get the stuffing done to get it in the bird. So I have actually always stuffed the bird with this. I've not really cooked it as a dressing, except for there have been a couple of times that I was cooking like a smaller turkey and it didn't all fit, and I took what was excess and put it in a small dish and baked it. If you are intentionally going to cook this as a dressing, not inside the turkey, I'm going to go ahead and say add an extra egg and an extra half cup of cream, or you could do a half cup of like chicken broth or something like that, just so that you have more moisture. Dressings, you typically want them to be pretty wet when you put them in the pan, and then as they cook they dry out, and then at that point you would bake it for like 45 minutes to an hour in a 350-degree oven. I just think that while this is just the right texture that we want to stuff a bird with, for a dressing I think it would be just a little bit dry. So if you wanted to try that, those would be the alterations that I would make. As it is, this looks just right to put in. Now, I used salted butter in this. You know, I didn't put a bunch of butter in it, but a couple tablespoons of that. I used sausage that was already seasoned, therefore it was already salted. I made my cornbread with leftover bacon fat. So I do not want to add a bunch of salt to this. However, I do want to put in 2 teaspoons of rubbed sage and a little bit of black pepper. We need to preheat our oven to 350 degrees at this point. And I've got a big old turkey here. This probably weighs about, I don't know, close to 20 pounds. This is a home-raised turkey. I prefer to cook turkeys that are in the like 15 to 17 range. Just think they do better. They typically, they have more chance of drying out more when you're cooking a really big turkey, but it's okay. It's what we got, so we're gonna use it. I'm drying the outside so that I don't put this turkey in a hot oven and create a lot of steam. Anytime that you introduce moisture and water into a high heat situation, it's going to create steam, which is going to keep like the skin from crisping up. All right, so the next step is a really important one to have good moist meat. You need to take a stick of butter that's been softened if you leave it out on the counter overnight, and we're going to put our hand in here, and in between the skin and the meat, I usually go in with no butter first with just my fingers to separate the skin from the meat. And you just go slow so you don't poke any holes in the skin. We don't want that because that would definitely let our moisture out and give us the opposite effect that we're hoping for. And you'll have to go on both sides, on both breasts, and do the same thing. Go real slow here and just work the skin away from the meat, separating that membrane. So anytime you're roasting any poultry, this is a good idea. I showed a recipe a couple weeks ago about how to spatchcock a chicken, and that's the only time I don't put anything under the skin, just because it's such a fast cooking bird, and in the cast iron with the seared skin it gets really nice crispy skin and nice moist meat. But whenever you're cooking a bird whole like this, it is going to take longer for the internal temperature to rise to what you need, and so you do have more chance of things drying out. And by putting this butter under the skin, you just take it, it's soft, and spread it out underneath. By doing this, it's going to melt, and not only is it going to meld with the fat that's melting and help keep the meat moist, it's going to actually melt into our stuffing that's inside the turkey, and it's going to be really delicious. When I roast chickens and I put butter under the skin, a lot of times I'll chop up herbs in them. You could probably do that here, but I just never have. I'm going to do a little more. This is probably about 1.5 sticks because this is such a big turkey, but for a more average sized turkey, a stick is plenty. It's time to stuff the bird. Let's turn it around here. As you can see, we have the cavity. If you bought a turkey from the store, there was likely a package of the organs in the inside of the bird. Potentially the turkey neck was stuck in there. You can save those things for making gravy and broth, but do take them out before you cook the turkey. I actually do kind of make a mess of it. I'm not that worried about it. And I don't necessarily like pack it in here. I'm not looking to make it like a really tight pack because I do want it to roast evenly, but I am filling it, as you can see. And then I usually do go ahead here on the outside and let it really overflow in between the two turkey legs. These parts are going to get a little crispy on the outside. I'll probably have a couple of little black bits here. I don't mind that. I think it tastes really good. If you don't like that, you don't have to put as much on the outside. Now here on the bird's skin, I'm going to do a generous sprinkle of cracked black pepper, as well as a generous sprinkle of good salt. I don't do any like twining or tying can. I know a lot of people have a lot of different methods for cooking turkey. I'm not saying that this is the only way, but it is the way that I really like. So this is going in the 350-degree oven. So you can go online and find all sorts of charts and things that tell you how long to cook a turkey. The general consensus is for a stuffed turkey, you're looking at about 15 minutes per pound. And according to that math, it should take 5.5 hours or so to cook a 20-pound turkey. I've never cooked turkey for that long. Typically whenever I use my meat thermometer, it's done in about 3.5 hours. I am going to take a look at that at 2.5. There's another thing that gets said a lot. A lot of people will say don't ever open that oven whenever the turkey is in there, that you have to leave it closed no matter what. I live in a mobile home with a really cruddy oven. I do not have a nice oven. It does not heat evenly. If I do not take this turkey and manually rotate it a couple of times during cooking, one side of it is going to be done 20 minutes before the other side, which that would not be great. So whatever it is we're trying to preserve by leaving the oven closed, I'm not at the place to be able to preserve that. So I do open my oven. I open my oven and temp my turkey. Maybe it's because the butter's under the skin. I don't really know. I don't think that it makes a massive difference in my experience. But you know, I'm not here to argue with anybody. Again, I'm just telling you how I do things. No matter how long it takes to cook though, we've got some time now, so I'll catch back up with you a little bit later. Okay, so this has been simmering down and has reduced by half. You can kind of see the line of where it was and where it is now. I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of balsamic and continue to let it go over this low heat, maybe like it's kind of between low and medium. Alright, I want to take a peek in here. Now this turkey is not done. Ooh, steamed it up. But you can see the skin is getting pretty brown, and I do not want it to burn. So I'm going to pull it out a little bit. Here I am breaking that don't open the oven rule. And I'm going to tint some foil over the top of this. So it's not tight on or anything. It's basically just tinted over the top, and that's going to protect the skin from continuing to cook because I don't want it to burn before the inside of the turkey is done. Okay, there you go. Alright, so I just pulled this and timped it. I'm about 10 degrees shy, which is where I want to be to baste. I took the foil tint off the top. Now here is my reduced balsamic glaze, which I added a stick of butter to, let it melt, and then took it off the heat. And you can see it's nice and thick. I don't do this super fancy. I'm just going to pour it over the top. I should have put on the other oven mitt. Here it is. Okay. And again, I'm turning this around. You can see this leg is a little more cooked. I told y'all my oven heats unevenly. I'm gonna go. Are you cringing watching that drip over, knowing how smoky it's gonna make that?
Nope. I'm just thinking about dinner.
Alright, I'm gonna stick this back in and let it cook probably another 15-ish minutes uncovered. Okay. Nope, don't want that off.
That's in the video.
It's fine, I can edit it.
Nope. That's totally staying in.
Alright, here's my turkey, the finished product. Looks good. I just took a bite of the stuffing that was sticking on the back. You want to let it sit for at least 10 minutes before you start carving it. You can let it sit up to 30, however it is going to start cooling off at that point. But you do want to give it at least 10 minutes to rest so that the juices can redistribute before you carve it. And that's it. This is our excellent turkey. We hope our friends love it. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. God bless you. Until next time.